This is episode 119 of Uncensored Conservatism, continuing with the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, or whatever you want to call it. And we're going to take a look at the results of the Mueller probe. So, before examining the results of the special counsel's report, we need to look at some of the people Mueller hired as prosecutors and investigators. There were three key top prosecutors, followed by more prosecutors, and then the actual investigators who did the grunt work. He tapped to Michael Drabine, who had argued over 100 cases before the United States Supreme Court; James Quarles, who had worked on the Watergate Task Force, concentrating on campaign finance violations. But the key person, for our purposes, is Andrew Weissman, who took a leave of absence from the DOJ's Criminal Fraud Division, which he headed to join the Mueller team. From 1991 to 2002, Weissman worked for the DOJ in the U.S. Attorney's Field Office in eastern New York. There he was involved in the prosecution of several high-profile organized crime cases concerning the Gambino crime family. Then from 2002 to 2005, he was the lead prosecutor in the Enron scandal. He also served as Mueller's chief counsel when Mueller was FBI director. Now, there's no secret that he has a no-holds-barred reputation as a prosecutor, and it was the Enron case that first shows some disturbing behaviors by a prosecutor. Weissman engaged in a pattern of intimidating witnesses and leveraging attorney-client privilege against another witness. Although there were complaints, the judge refused to accept several affidavits, since many of those making the complaints were off the record because they feared retaliation. He also led an investigation into the accounting firm Arthur Andersen, which led to the collapse of that firm and the unemployment of its 85,000-member worldwide workforce. In 2005, partly because of his conduct, the convictions were overturned 9-0 by the United States Supreme Court. After a stint in private practice, Weissman became Mueller's general counsel, then moved over to head the Criminal Fraud Division of the DOJ when Comey replaced Mueller at the FBI. On election night 2016, Weissman attended the Hillary Clinton victory party that was not to be. Early in the Trump administration, when Trump's DOJ issued a travel ban, several people within the department refused to enforce it. One of those people was Sally Yates, for which she was fired. Before that, Weissman sent her an email congratulating her for her stance and expressing pride in her actions. During the Mueller probe, Weissman ordered a pre-dawn raid on the home of Paul Manafort in Virginia that lasted for hours. When Manafort was sent to prison on charges having absolutely nothing to do with Russian election interference, he was placed in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day. Weissman recommended a prison term of 19 to 24 years. Manafort got less than 4 years. Despite these drawbacks, even his actions against organized crime figures in the 90s were called into question. In addition, from his days as a federal prosecutor in New York, the territory covered Brooklyn. The U.S. attorney was Loretta Lynch at the time, who became Obama's second attorney general after Eric Holder had left. Weissman was part of a small group that included Lynch, who would hang together socially. Another prosecutor was Aaron Zebley. He spent 7 years at the FBI as a special agent in the counterterrorism division and served as Mueller's chief of staff at the FBI. He was a former U.S. attorney in Alexandria, and his expertise was cybersecurity. Adam Jed was brought on, even though he was formerly employed by Perkins Coie, the law firm that was used as a buffer between the Clinton campaign and Fusion GPS. Jesus. Omer Meisel was likely hired given his association with Weissman, since he assisted in the Enron case as an investigation for the SEC. One FBI agent of note was Walter Jardina, who was assigned to investigate ties between Russia and Flynn. He was also one of the 2 FBI agents who were present for the interview with Dennis Montgomery of Hammer fame. The other FBI agent in the Hammer case was William Barnett, and he too landed on the Mueller probe and was assigned to the Flynn aspect. He, along with Jardina, interviewed freelance writer Hank Cox, who helped Flynn prepare an op-ed echoing the Turkish government's views over the extradition of an exiled Muslim cleric living in the United States. As far as the actual Russian collusion aspect of the probe goes, that task was initially supervised by Peter Strzok. When the derogatory text messages between Strzok and Lisa Page became public, he was kicked off the probe and the job was given to David Archie, who had been in charge of the Birmingham, Alabama field office, and he was involved in the Hillary Clinton private server investigation. With the people in place, Mueller began his 19-month investigation. So what did that investigation discover? So we're going to look at the people charged because of the probe. Former campaign manager Paul Manafort, indicted on 25 charges ranging from money laundering and FARA violations. No collusion with Russia. In fact, the charges involved Ukraine. Rick Gates, Manafort's business partner, faced 29 charges and pleaded guilty to one count of lying to investigators. No Russian collusion. George Papadopoulos, former campaign advisor, one count of lying to investigators. Served 14 days in jail. No collusion. Mike Flynn, former advisor to the campaign, one count of making false statements to investigators. No Russian collusion. And the case was dropped by the DOJ. Michael Cohen, Trump's former attorney, made false statements to Congress and was sentenced to 60 days in jail. No collusion. And the statements had nothing to do with Russia. Roger Stone, former campaign official, charged with making false statements. Richard Pinedo, no link to the campaign, convicted of identity fraud by stealing information about Americans and giving it to Russian nationals. No collusion with the campaign. Alex van der Zwaan, a Dutch attorney, one count of lying to investigators and sentenced to 30 days in jail. No Russian collusion. He was just collateral damage in the Manafort case. Konstantin Kilimnik, no association with the campaign, indicted as part of Manafort's dealing with Ukraine. No collusion. Kilimnik is not even in the United States. 25 Russians and 3 companies allegedly involved in the hacking of the DNC, Clinton campaign, and John Podesta emails with no ties to the Trump campaign. All are in Russia and will never see the inside of a courtroom. One of the indicted companies did not exist at the time of the alleged hacking, and a second did not exist at all, ever. The 25 Russians are officials and agents of either the FSB or GRU. But surely you may reasonably ask, all that manpower, time, effort, and money must have proven something, if not collusion between Trump's campaign and Russia. First, he determined that the general staff of the Russian military, under the direction of their intelligence services, hacked the DNC, John Podesta, and the DCCC, and that the stolen emails were published by WikiLeaks, Guccifer 2.0, and DC Leaks. Guccifer 2.0 and DC Leaks being Russian entities, he determined. There were multiple contacts with Russian agents during the campaign with campaign members. However, although they occasionally took the bait, they did so unknowingly, and hence there could be no criminal charges. These Russian agents are allegedly Joseph Mitsud and Stephen Halper, but as we have seen, they have closer ties to Western intelligence, not Russia. The offering of dirt on Hillary Clinton was the bait, and if you believe you're talking to a Maltese professor or an American Republican strategist, that can't be construed as dealing with Russians. The Russian social media campaign disparaging Clinton and supporting Trump was documented as the effort of the Internet Research Agency, a Russian cyber outfit. Using social media platforms like Facebook, the effort targeted both conservatives and liberals alike, which indicates the true purpose of the efforts, to sow the seeds of political discord. The effort amounted to a financial obligation roughly equal to that of a Super Bowl advertisement. In effect, we received a huge document numbering 448 pages, yet subsequent revelations showed that the effort was for naught. The report failed to mention that George Papadopoulos offered the FBI help in locating Joseph Mitsud for questioning. This was specifically withheld by Aaron Zelinsky, Jeannie Ray, and Andrew Goldstein, who happened upon the information during their investigation, a fact never made it into the Mueller report. The report said nothing about exculpatory information regarding the infamous June 2016 Trump Tower meeting. The FBI had interviewed one translator at that meeting 4 days after the story broke in 2017, and he told them nothing suspicious, especially about Hillary Clinton, was discussed. the FBI report was left out of the Mueller report. Throughout the ordeal, investigators went to great lengths to say that the Steele dossier played a negligible role. Yet Rosenstein's scope of investigation memo in August of 2017 specifically states Carter Page and Paul Manafort. As the previous Crossfire Hurricane probe was in progress, the first time these two are mentioned is in the Steele memos. When Mueller gave his public testimony in his final on July 24, 2019, he refused to answer questions about the dossier or Christopher Steele. He avoided questions about those 3 FBI interviews with Steele's subsource who disavowed the contents of the dossier, and he avoided recognition of the fact Steele was paid by the Clinton campaign and DNC through Fusion GPS. Mueller refused to answer questions about Konstantin Kilimnik other than vaguely referring to him as having connections to Russian intelligence, connections that are never specified or spelled out. Andrew Weissman publicly stated that the Manafort-Kilimnik association was key to explaining what was going on between the campaign and Russians. While explaining that Kilimnik was at the heart of a motive, the Mueller team was aware of other evidence of Kilimnik. He was a key sensitive source for the U.S. State Department in Ukraine. Although determining there was no Trump-Russia conspiracy, there is no explanation why so many high-placed Obama administration officials said they believed there had been, and their actions were based on these beliefs. His report ultimately told us what did not happen, but never told us why or what really happened. Instead, he rode off into the sunset, vowing his last public testimony before Congress was his last word ever on the report that forever bears his name. And that's it for today. Have a great day. More pleasant tomorrow.